program since 2010, having raised about $240 million for projects, 8 completed, 3 offerings currently in the market. And we've done with this program, what Saif mentioned, is that we've raised capital for our marketplace, invested it, in turn loaned it actually to real estate projects in our area. They've included everything from major hospital system to major downtown developments, all kinds of different asset classes, from residential to hotel to retail to parking garages and the like. And again, very much in line with what this program's intention has been. The program's actually been around since the early 1990s, but really took off during the financial crisis of 2008, really all the way up to 2012, with the credit crunch in the country. Developers in particular were looking for ways to finance their projects. Wasn't really needed to run overseas and find these funds to do that up to that point, but we were fortunate. Some people say we were brilliant, but it's always important to be a little lucky too. We came into existence at the time in which our developers in our marketplaces, some very good experienced ones, were looking for new forms of capital, and we were able to put this program in front of them, EB5, and help them finance some major developments. Of the $240 million that we have raised, which has been primarily in the Cleveland portion of our area, our service area now extends to other areas. So we do handle in-house all the operating side. We have a portal system where we communicate information. Investors get interest. They have to get K1 reports from the industrial heartland of the United States, between the East Coast and Chicago being the major metropolitan area in the center of the United States. We've done, a series of projects throughout that period, 2010 to the current, major hospitals, downtown development, convention hotels. All of these projects, and you can see if you look quickly at job creation out of those, so that the investors could first receive a conditional green card for them and their immediate family, because the way the program works is for that investment, they can get a green card for them, their spouse, and any children involved. That is conditional until we prove that the jobs were created. At that point, they can apply for permanent status, basically relief of those conditions, and they get a permanent green card. And then ideally, the way the program is designed is, while they have to be at risk, there may be regional centers out there that will guarantee repayment. That is not the way the program works. The program has got to go into a project that is technically at risk. Some projects succeed, hopefully most of them. Some can have problems. We have been fortunate. All of our projects have succeeded. The projects that have been due to repay us, specifically these first 2, we put the funds in. So those investors have both gotten first their conditional green card, their permanent green card because the projects occurred, and have been repaid because the loans have come. Is really the period of time that an investor has to stay committed to this program in order to get a permanent green card. The way our government processing is of this program, and again, part of this is a result of it being in such high demand, particularly over the last 5 years, it's about a 2 to 2.5 year process once an investor makes a decision to go into a project like one of these that we have now currently, before they get that conditional green card. Then they have to again wait a period of time before they apply again, and the conditions are removed usually in 5 to 6 years. So in that 5 to 6 year period, a successful EB5 project will ultimately get them their permanent residency and get them return of their capital. And again, we have had good success in our marketplace working with experienced real estate developers to create jobs in our community. We are well supported by our political leadership in doing this because we help things happen in our community, from hospitals to downtown development and the like, from a source that would not otherwise be available to developers. And then for investors, they're happy because they get a green card, and on usually a time frame that is faster than any other program that they could potentially access, because obviously we have a variety of ways of coming into the country, but they usually have conditions around they're temporary, or they have to be obviously continuing to study, or they have to stay with a particular employer, say in the case of H-1B visas. This program provides the opportunity, other than dealing through marriage and so forth, for that investor to have permanent status, not subject to any future renewal. And that's really been the attraction. And frankly, for a period of time that is considered reasonable, given the benefit of permanent status. And obviously, ideally, what they want to see, and what we've been able to produce for them, is that while they have to put up capital to make that happen, which helps us to create the jobs, which is why the government decided to do the program, they get that back if the regional center is picking good projects for them. So I think I'll stop there. It's harder for them to invest outside of China. That's a relatively small factor, but a factor. So what has occurred with that demand and with the reality in China, they're saying it's going to take 10 years. I'm not sure I'm going to do this. So demand has come way down, and as a result, active regional centers who have projects to present and are good ones are much more active in finding investors from other parts of the world, and we are exactly that kind of example. And really, over the last year or two, through a variety of means, we are finding we still get Chinese investors. There are some who still look at the long term and see a benefit, but really from other Far Eastern Asian countries, Taiwan, Korea, Vietnam, and then we've specifically begun to focus first domestically, but now with these kind of trips and sessions with Middle Eastern markets and mid-Asian markets, such as India in particular, and that is a growing area. You might say, where's EB5 been all these years? EB5 has been out there, but it's been primarily in China in terms of presenting its offerings to individuals. And now really the benefit, because the program is in existence, we believe it'll continue in existence. And frankly, investors here will get the benefit, I think, of a program that's going to be better, even better going forward. We'll have the opportunity to see offerings like this in front of them for this program, should they see a benefit for them and their family to get a residency status for this period of time.
Do you have any statistics on the Middle Eastern investors, the number of investors in EB5? I think the Middle East is underrepresented, but any statistics you have?
Greatly, well, obviously not Middle East, but the fastest growing market is India, and obviously we know there's a lot of Indian residents here. But for the most part, they're really, to date, in terms of filings, and I'm happy to follow up and get the statistics. I would also say you can look up the USCIS, which is the agency that regulates us, will have the latest statistics by country, as would our trade association, IIUSA. I'm an officer of that organization as well, but they've been very small. We have, again, in the last 12 to 18 months, where we've begun to expand our focus and put our offerings out in front, have gotten investors from Egypt, from Pakistan, from Syria, many of them actually via status here in the UAE. So we see this as a growing area, but if you look at the statistics, the reporting of the statistics lags the performance.
Yeah.
So they're really very, very small. But I know, attended a trade show for the first time here last year, where EB5 is beginning to be put forward, not only by us, but by other major regional centers. The reason that I think the market here will be even better served than what has occurred to date is that there's going to be a shakeout in our industry in terms of regional centers. It will be, because overall worldwide demand, because of what's going on in China, will come down. The idea of there being 800 regional centers, which is what our agency has licensed. A lot of people thought this was an easy way. I'll set up a regional center. It'll be a way maybe for me to raise really easy money they'll see it's not so easy. You got to spend time, you got to do sessions like this, and they will say, this is not worth it. And the regional centers that will be around will be the ones that have been doing it, that have track records like ours, that spend full time on it, that learn the details of it, and so the investors will have better options, I think, ultimately. Not just from us, we have very good offerings, but from others who are here in the marketplace. The other thing, and we'll be here too, and we'll be here on a more consistent, regular basis. Part of my trip here is not only to educate and to present our offerings in front of folks, but to develop relationships with folks who can be on the ground here in the UAE to help us identify investors who would be interested in our products. So we will have long-term, starting with my friends, but we will have long-term relationships here to help us understand the market and to put that in front of them. The other thing that they will see is offerings like the ones that we have currently, where there's a little higher rate of return for investors. Traditionally, as EB5 has been in China, we have sold investment where the promise, if you will, to investors is we will get you the green card because this is a project that can create 10 jobs, and we will return your capital because this is a project that we believe can repay you, but we're not going to pay you any interest or pay you 0.5%. Both of these offerings that we're presenting to the marketplace here will pay 2.5% per investor, and while that's not huge, that's a much higher rate of return than has typically been available to investors. So in addition to their major return being the green card for them and their family, there will be some economic return to them as well.
If you could
Go back to investors on how their investment is doing as an investment in a real estate project. We typically do 3 or 4 newsletters to our investors. We come back and talk to them about what's going on with their investment. And meanwhile, this whole immigration process is occurring. A lot of the immigration process is a lot of waiting, unfortunately, because the government takes time to process this. But what we also do as a manager, we do 2 things as a manager for these investors. One is we act like any manager for a real estate fund. Like I said, we follow the investment, we report to them, we represent their interests if there's any problems. We also help them facilitate their immigration process because they say, hey, I need stuff, manager, I need information to show me that these jobs were created. So we act as their intermediary working with their immigration counsel. They have their own immigration counsel who files this application for them. And we provide the evidence that they need from our borrower to show that jobs are created. So I mention all these details because this activity is not for the faint of heart or for the, I'm going to do this part-time kind of thing. One of the things I find, and my background is in investment banking and government, and I've had a lot of interesting ideas. One of the reasons, crazy guy that I am, that I got interested in this is it had all kinds of interesting aspects. On the one hand, we work with developers and real estate, and I got to know projects, and I got to know finance and so forth. But then I have immigration aspect of it, and then there's the international side of talking to investors across the world and what they're looking for and what's important and how they look at a project. So you have to have skill sets, I think, not just from me, but from our whole staff and from people that we work with across the globe to give investors, because they should be comfortable. Does my regional center know what they're doing? Do they have background in the kind of lending money for these kind of projects? Are they dealing with the right kind of developers? Can they help me with my immigration process here? And can they communicate with me so that I can understand what's going on with my investment? Because I'm halfway around the world. For the first 2.5 years of that, they don't have their green card. So they may not even be able to travel to the United States.